It was daytime, clear, quiet, and unassuming, yet something powerful cracked open in the heart of a woman who thought she had run out of places inside herself that could still feel anything at all. The breeze carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine, children's laughter echoed somewhere across the park, and the city moved on with its indifferent rhythm, never realizing that the simplest act of kindness was about to change a life that had nearly collapsed under its own weight. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the way small actions can change someone's world, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindly Tube. It truly helps keep stories like this alive. The young woman's name was Marina Solis, a 24-year-old whose life had once been bright enough to make her believe she would conquer every dream she ever whispered to the sky. But sitting on that worn park bench, with her clothes carrying the dust of too many nights spent outside, her hair tied in a messy knot she hadn't brushed properly in days, and her backpack half-zipped because the zipper had broken that morning, she felt more like a shadow of a person than a living one. The warm daytime light didn't soften her exhaustion. Instead, it exposed the depth of it, her sunken cheeks, her tired eyes, and the quiet tremble of someone trying not to completely break down in public. Her life had unraveled quietly, first when her mother passed away after a long illness that drained every bit of savings they had, then when she lost her small apartment because she could no longer keep up with medical debts and rising rent, and finally when the job she relied on as a cashier cut hours she desperately needed. She didn't fall in one dramatic moment, she slipped, slowly, painfully, until the edge she tumbled over felt like an inevitability rather than an accident. But even when she ended up sleeping near shelters, relying on public bathrooms to wash her face, or eating whatever low-cost snacks she could afford, she hadn't lost everything. She still carried a journal with her, one of the last belongings from her mother, a little blue book with fading gold edges, filled with motivational lines they used to read together. Yet for weeks she hadn't dared to open it, afraid that seeing her mother's handwriting would make the ache unbearable. That morning had been harder than most. She had woken up thirsty, hungry, and emotionally drained after a long night of little sleep. She walked toward the park only because she knew it stayed warm in the daytime sun, and she could sit without being asked to move. She tried to steady her breathing, tried to appear invisible, tried to pretend people weren't avoiding looking at her. Then the little girl appeared out of nowhere. She was maybe 7 years old, with bright eyes, a small yellow dress, and her hair tied in two curly ponytails that bounced as she walked. Her mother was nearby, talking to a vendor, glancing occasionally in her direction but not noticing where her daughter had wandered. The little girl was holding a pink balloon in one hand and a half-eaten strawberry ice cream in the other. And she walked straight toward Marina with a confidence only children seem to have with strangers. Marina looked at her with confusion, turning slightly away as if trying to protect the child from the mess she believed she was. But the girl stepped even closer, her expression soft and curious, her small voice cutting through the woman's spiraling thoughts. "I think you need a hug. Can I hug you?" For a moment Marina froze completely. People asked for directions. People avoided eye contact. People crossed the street. But no one had asked her something so simple, so pure, in such a long time. The girl tilted her head slightly, waiting, blinking in the sunlight, her innocence radiating warmth that Marina hadn't let herself feel. Marina didn't know whether to cry or smile. Her throat tightened, her vision blurred, and she shook her head slightly as if still unsure she heard correctly. But the girl stepped forward and gently wrapped her small arms around Marina's waist, her balloon brushing against Marina's arm. It wasn't long, a few seconds at most, but it was enough to break open a heart that had been held together only by the sheer will to survive. Her breath shook. Her chin trembled. Tears she had swallowed for weeks suddenly rose without permission. She didn't sob loudly, she didn't crumble, she simply let the tears fall silently, as though that tiny hug had granted her permission to feel human again. The girl looked up at her and smiled softly. "You looked lonely." Children had a way of noticing the things adults filtered out. Before the girl's mother walked over and apologized gently, guiding her daughter back toward the vendor, the child whispered one last thing that stayed with Marina long after she left. "Mommy says everyone needs kindness." And then she was gone. Just like that, but something inside Marina had shifted. The warmth of that hug lingered like a spark refusing to fade. She sat up straighter. Her shoulders felt lighter. Her breathing steadied. And for the first time in a long while, she opened her backpack and pulled out her mother's journal. She flipped open to a random page. One line was circled in her mother's handwriting: "You are not lost. You are becoming." It was written years ago, after Marina's first major heartbreak. Back then, the words comforted her. Today, they broke her open all over again. She pressed the journal to her chest, letting the sunlight wash over her, letting the daytime breeze feel like a new beginning instead of another reminder of where she had fallen. For the first time in months, she didn't feel invisible. With a deep breath, she made a decision. She would try just once more to rebuild. She walked toward the community center she had passed many times but had always avoided. The building was bright and open, with posters about job assistance, free meals, counseling, and support programs taped to the windows. A man at the reception desk, middle-aged with kind features and glasses, looked up with a gentle smile. "Hi there," he said softly. "First time visiting?" Marina nodded slowly. "Take your time," he added. "You're safe here." It was such a simple sentence, but it made her eyes burn again. Over the next hour, she filled out forms with trembling hands, drank warm tea they offered her, and listened to a social worker named Calera Hartwood, a woman with patient eyes and calm energy. Calera asked about her situation, not in a judgmental way, but with genuine concern. She offered resources, explained temporary shelter options, and helped Marina sign up for a job training program that started in just a few days. It felt surreal. The world that had pushed her to its margins suddenly showed her a door she didn't know was there. But the real miracle happened later, when she was waiting in the lobby, clutching her new folder of papers. A laminated flyer caught her eye, an opening for a part-time assistant position at a small flower shop located just 3 blocks away. They needed help immediately. Experience preferred, but not required. The shop owner, according to a handwritten note on the flyer, believes in giving people a chance. Her hands trembled as she tore off the contact strip. The flower shop was small, bright, and filled with the sweet fragrance of fresh blooms. The owner, Rian Cordell, was a woman in her early 40s with rolled sleeves, a loose bun, and soil on her hands. She looked up as Marina walked in, taking in her nervousness instantly. "You here for the job posting?" Rian asked, wiping her hands on an apron. "Yes," Marina replied, her voice unsteady. Rian looked at her carefully, really looked at her, and nodded. "You're right on time. Let's talk." They spoke for nearly half an hour. Marina was honest about her situation, though she kept it simple. Rian never flinched, never looked uncomfortable. Instead, she listened with a thoughtful stillness that felt like sunlight on cold skin. Finally, she smiled. "You remind me of someone who once gave me a chance when I needed it," she said. "If you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach." Marina couldn't speak. She nodded vigorously, blinking back tears. "Come tomorrow morning," Rian said warmly. "We'll start fresh." That night, for the first time in weeks, Marina slept in a safe shelter bed. She ate a warm meal. She showered and washed her hair. She felt human. She felt seen. Days turned into weeks. Marina learned how to wrap bouquets, care for plants, handle customers, and manage the store's cheerful chaos. She worked hard, sometimes too hard, but she did it with gratitude blooming quietly inside her. Her confidence returned slowly, like the first unfurling of petals after a long winter, and every day she walked home through the park, hoping she might see the little girl again. The spark that ignited her returned to life. One bright afternoon, she did. The girl was sitting on a blanket with her mother, drawing pictures with bright crayons. When the girl saw Marina, her face lit up with recognition. She ran forward with the same energy, the same bouncing ponytails, and the same radiant innocence. "You look happy," the girl exclaimed. Marina knelt and hugged her gently, her eyes misting. "I am," she whispered. "Because someone reminded me that kindness still exists." The girl grinned proudly, then ran back to her mother. Marina watched her go, the moments settling deep inside her soul as one she would never forget. As time passed, she saved money, found a small room to rent, and continued working at the flower shop, eventually becoming someone Rian relied on deeply. She rebuilt her life, not all at once, not without struggles, but steadily, with a quiet strength she hadn't realized she possessed, and she never forgot where it started. A hug, a child, a moment of purr.